in stretch, but I couldn't even think about trying to beat him, even though he's dropping down the elevator shaft of class.
Yeah, I mean, Maxis, he's pretty easy to like. I mean, he wins by 4 at Oaklawn Park in a maiden race, comes up here. The pace is really fast in that May 9th race for 20,000 and just tires late, cutting back from 6.5 to 5.5. But even him, Ramon, who rode this horse last time for Abel. I mean, he loves riding for Abel Ramirez Rodriguez.
Yeah.
Even he opts to ride stretch, for a stable. He does ride for, no doubt about that. But I'd assume Ramon had his call and decided, let me go with the horse not dropping in class but plunging down in class. And Stretch is that horse. He broke his maiden here at Lone Star Park in a maiden special weight race by 9 lengths, last summer. And then after, being stake placed at Zia, he is given a little bit of time, shows up here on a track, rated as good, catches Brilliant Plan, who, ran a huge race that day. Brilliant Plan is actually in our allowance feature race today, so you get a chance to see Brilliant Plan. But tactical speed, the best numbers, the most class, high percentage rider. I mean, Stretch is the one to beat. There's no cinches in this game, but, clearly the one to beat.
And he takes blinkers off. That's not only a high percentage move for Gustafson, but it's a move you like.
Mm-hmm.
Stretch takes the blinkers off. You mentioned Max's. One race away from a really smart Oaklawn maiden win. West of town, a 3-year-old Oklahoma bred. Added Lasix last time at Will Rogers on their closing day. Didn't run all that well, but some of his Claremore efforts were decent. War Spirit goes turf to dirt. I don't. What can you say? I mean, he's an Asmussen. I mean, so to me, the harder pick in here was for second. I mean, we're pretty much obviously going to be going with Stretch in this spot. And even a Jade Gellner Frozen Tap, second off a really long layoff, might be one that could slide up in there for something. Yep. On to the second. Now, this is an interesting race in race 2 because there's 6 in here now after the 5 Courageous Cap and Scratched. Non-winners of 3 filly and mare claimers. It's a mile. 4 of the 7, though, have a lot of sprint form and are coming out of shorter races. So they're stretching out around 2 turns. So who do you like in that situation? You're going with one of the stretch outs. I'm going with a filly in Sense of Awe that's a little more proven at the distance. But you're going with Avalon Girl who, let's face it, you can really toss her 2-turn races in the past, but she's so sharp right now that that's why she is your morning line favorite, I'm sure.
Yeah, you got that. You got winning connections. But, 2 starts ago, 6 1/2 furlongs, tracks the early leader, goes off to win, moves up naturally into a non-winners at 2 claimer. Once again, forwardly placed, wins. So on numbers, on sharpness, I really like this 5-year-old mare. She's really good right now. Once horses learn to win, oftentimes they can put together a really nice winning streak. Avalon Girl's certainly that. She's run 2 turns twice before. One was on an off track at Oaklawn, over a year ago. So that probably can be, excused. She was bet down to 5-1 that day. And then her other race was at Ellis Park, 2 years ago. Awkward, steadied at the start. So, and that was against maiden special weights as well.
Yeah.
Tristan, the Ashfords, they win enough races to know, that this mare, if she couldn't go 2 turns, there's no reason they would enter. So she should be really close to the lead, a route of ground, and certainly bred to go this far. So Avalon Girl and I agree with you, should be a competitive race.
The Ashford barn is very good at stretching them out, too. Sprint to route, they're 10 for 20 during the run of these statistics. One thing about that mile at Ellis, too, not only is it the Kentucky circuit, but they have that interesting mile where they kind of start way out, almost like the Wilson Chute at Saratoga. And they kind of go straight for a bit, and then they bend. It's not a true oval 2-turn race.
Yeah.
I think you can kind of ignore those 2 efforts. I'm going to go with Sense of Awe. I don't know what was going on 2 races ago. Gorno claimed her away from Danny Pish. She was 2-1 at Houston and just absolutely chunked in a complete clunker. Followed that up with a nice win here over non-winners of 2 go for 10,000. Now she faces non-threes. It's a reasonable spot for her. She's sharp. She has speed. Is inside. She seems to like this track and like the distance. She broke her maiden at 7 furlongs at Houston quite smartly. So I'm going to go with speed inside and hope one of these stretchers like your filly doesn't, burn her up early on.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, Steve Asmussen is heated up with Stenick now, the leading money earner in the field, and is competing at Oaklawn Park, where the racing, is extremely strong. So also taking a significant drop in class. So can easily see her, being a big factor here.
She's interesting because she's never been a mile and probably has never been beyond a sprint. Sorry, something flew into my mouth. But, sorry, Stenick, when she's on, is a giant late runner. I mean, she falls way back. Now, sometimes, the old early handicapping books I read were don't count on late-running sprinters to be able to stretch out.
Yeah.
And that's a handicapping maxim, I guess you would say. But in this case, in this barn, getting an opportunity to stretch out, maybe it's time for her to try 2 turns. So she could definitely be dangerous.
Yeah, she's definitely not bred to go 2 turns necessarily. But, again, you got a Hall of Fame trainer saying, I'm going to run her 2 turns. So, I'd concede to Steve's opinion.
Exactly. On to the third. 2-year-old fillies. We ran our first 2-year-old race yesterday. Austin Gustafson's horse, Dear Admiral, dominated. You had him. That was a good pick. My top pick ran second, kind of an uneven debut. But Gustafson's horse looked great. Scratch number 1, Rose of Sigma Tau, 5/8 of a mile. Gustafson, has 2 in here. You're not going for either one. You're going for a mare, a filly, and Showgirl Swifty, who, by the way, the 5 is on Lasix, like all these others. It says L1. They're all first-time starters. So Showgirl Swifty is on Lasix, and she has a really interesting pedigree we'll talk about. I'm going with the longer shot of the Gustafsons and Starlift. You might have some workout info on her in Creative Leap, but let's talk about your top pick first.
Yeah, Showgirl Swifty. Danny Pitch does really well with, first-time starters here at Lone Star Park, and always has. He won with a couple debut winners, actually, at the tough Oaklawn Park meeting. So, when he puts his mind to getting one ready to win at first asking, he does a pretty good job. You can see just from a series of works, which is something I always like. Fastest of 10 back in April, 4th of 22, fastest of 3, fastest of 8, and 4th best of 39. So in other words, this filly, no matter what the surface looks like, has trained consistently well. The Damn My Silver Song is, if my research from last week is right, it's had 2 debut winners already. So that's really good. Paid $27,000 for Texas bred. That's pretty good money.
Yeah.
Because Texas breds don't have a lot of opportunities to make a lot of money unless you're really good. And so based on, the work pattern, I did see the May 17th work in company was clearly best of the 2 from the gate that day. So I decided to go that direction. The Gustafson worker that I saw was May 3rd, Creative Leap. He had 3 in there, and this one, to me, looked the best. It looked like he could have, or she could have, dusted that group. She's got a kind of a speedy pedigree, too, so, and Vasquez is aboard. So
yeah.
I figured Creative Leap would probably take more money, than Starlift, but that doesn't mean that she's going to outrun Starlift.
One more note about Showgirl Swifty. You mentioned the Damn My Silver Song. My Silver Song produced Redatory, who just a few years ago was an excellent Texas bred. He made $330,000. Redatory won his first 2 starts and continued to be a really nice older horse. Also, this horse, Showgirl Swifty, is also a half to Bubba Bling. He won first asking. Bubba Bling's a stakes winner of $169,000, who I think is still running. So, precociousness in that pedigree. I was a little interested in the jockey situation, too, because while Vasquez is a guy that anybody would want, Freddie Manrique does ride a lot for Austin Gustafson, and they have a lot of success together, especially in Oklahoma. Starlift is by Shoplifted, who we mentioned yesterday was an Asmussen that won twice. He won his debut. He won the Springboard Mile. And after that, he wound up second in the Hopeful as a 2-year-old. He was a very precocious 2-year-old. He was third in the Allen Jerkins, third in the Woody Stevens, both grade ones. Shoplifted was a really nice, better than $500,000 earner. Now he's standing here in Texas. The Dam, how about this cowgirl, was one of those many really good Texas-bred Scarborough mares. She won at first asking right here in 2017. So I think there's a precociousness, if not great works, in Starlift's background. Creative Leap, obviously good works. One filly I wanted to mention before we leave, the 8, Faith Forever. Midshipman, the sire of her, did sire Dear Admiral yesterday. Academy Road, the dam of Faith Forever, also produced a mare named Moto, who is right now a really good Texas-bred sprinter. She disappointed on Preakness Day, but Moto is outstanding. 300,000-plus earner. Also, this Faith Forever is not only a half-sis to her, half-sister to Texas Code, who's made $145,000, half-sister to a horse named Six Shooter, who's a stakes winner of $174,000. So Academy Road's a top-notch producer.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly say Wicked Start, since I saw the May 10th Breeze, had some things to like. Went 24.90 to the finish line, then 24.90 through the turn. Hence, you get the 49-3. That's important because this horse wasn't decelerating. Didn't show a ton of early gas. That doesn't mean that she won't have it because she's bred to be pretty quick. Majestic Perfection, you see that in the pedigree. He's an all-time fast type of sprinter. But nevertheless, a really nice work, and it didn't draw a lot of attention, 49-3. But this horse was not tiring, so I think she's really fit is my point.
Yeah. This is a really interesting race. I think pedigree-wise, this is a more interesting race than the Colts yesterday. Race 4. This is another one where I think it's a toss-up for second here in the 4th race. A mile on turf. Pretty obvious top pick here in Bint Al Dandy. Irish-bred mare coming from, by and large, pretty good efforts at Santa Anita. She may have a tendency to run second, but I mean, look who she was running second to a lot out there. I mean, I think she's one of these mares that if she takes to the atmosphere and the conditions and the firm turf, she's going to be really hard to beat.
Yeah, I like that Austin put this horse in a maiden special weight. You know it, because if it ran in a maiden 25, you'd be thinking, oh boy, something's not right here. But he knows she can win a maiden special weight here. The previous trainer, Falcone, he's a high percentage trainer. Yeah. He's really good. If you look at the buyer figures, the early speed, I mean, Ramon Vasquez, that's why you get 7 to 5. I had 6 to 5 originally, but the points didn't add up quite right, so I had to raise the odds on a few of these just to make sure the numbers added up. I will say Perdido Star I thought was pretty interesting, only because her career debut here at Lone Star Park was a turf sprint, and you can see she finished first but was disqualified. But that buyer 64, she's never run anything close to that on the main track. Now she's been off, a long time, 9 months roughly. Comes back, 2 really nice breezes, and this is simply a turf horse based on the 4 races we've seen from her. And Star Guitar, man, I remember Randy Moss saying, man, if I was in Louisiana, there's no way I wouldn't just breed everything to Star Guitar, because he every so often he comes up with an absolute runner. I'm not saying Perdido Star is that, but her one turf race was really good.
Right. He's got Touch Upon a Star, isn't he?
Yes,
a Star Guitar in tomorrow.
Sure is.
And I peeked ahead and noticed you picked him
again.
I love
that. I picked him last year when he didn't run well here.
He's phenomenal. He's been in the last 3 Sexton miles, and he's run like 2 seconds. And last year I think he ran 5th.
It was sloppy last year.
Yeah.
I was afraid it was going to be sloppy tomorrow, but now I don't think that's happening.
And he didn't make the lead last year. He kind of took back, and but anyway, I love Star Guitar too. Another Louisiana-bred filly that I think is worth noting is Lady Q, the number 9 here. She's another one that looks like she's found a home on the turf. Her last 3 races have been at least getting better. Leah's first loomed up last time, opening weekend here, and this flattened. But that was her first race since January. Calhoun should have her good and ready for this one. Plus, I think Pure Pizzazz kind of freaked out in that race, ran a super good race.
Sure did.
So it is competitive for second there. Calhoun also has lit up in here, who got a taste of the turf in that same race. This is an interesting battle here behind Bint Al Dandy, who, if she runs her race.
Yeah,
that can be a big if, but it should be over.
Runs it.
On to the fifth. Maiden 12-5 claimers. These are fillies and mares 3 and up going 1 mile.
The 4, Sherry's Magic for Robertino Diodoro, who I think he won 2 yesterday. Well, at least one, and
yes,
he had a couple.
He won back-to-back.
Yeah, and he almost won with Your Call, so he could have had a huge day yesterday. But this horse debuted, only run once at Turf Paradise, was bet down to 2-1 in a field of 8, broke pretty sluggishly, and then was one-paced.
Yeah, and
doesn't
swerved
concern
in
me
really
that much.
bad.
Yeah, since arriving here at Lone Star Park, 2, really nice breezes. She's just a 3-year-old, dropping from special weights all the way down to maiden 12-5, stretching out from 6.5 to a mile. On pedigree, should certainly love the distance switch. These connections can do no wrong. And on the buyer scale, no, you're not going to see an advantage here, but second-time starter from a top barn, big drop in class, stretch out, an awful lot to like. Did you go with Honor God anywhere, or is he out?
Third.
Oh, okay. I saw that swoop. I thought maybe I missed a scratch. I got you.
No, yeah, that's just a message to myself. Honor God goes turf to dirt. Last time the turf effort was decent, earned a career best buyer in a short career. Now goes back to dirt.
Yeah, it's a stretch out that I hope is the reason she improved so much, right? Yeah. Something you always haggle with as a handicapper. Was it the surface change or the distance change? And sometimes you got to, if the price is right, you'll go with the distance switch. Mm-hmm. But if this horse gets bet heavy, maybe you say, that was on turf.
Wanna Rock had a really good comeback after being off since July. She came back in late April. That was a good comeback race. Has blinkers today. Minuetta, the first-time starter. Interesting for Abel Ramirez Rodriguez to start this filly at a 2-turn race, but I'd be curious to know if somebody else had her, because she trained at Indy, she trained at Oaklawn, she went back to Horseshoe Indianapolis. I don't think Abel has a string there.
No, not to my knowledge.
She must have been with somebody else. Mark David Hickson might have had her with another trainer. She's come here and trained a couple of times, so she's intriguing to me. And as far as Sherry's Magic, that start was not good. I mean, she got out and then swerved in. She drew inside in her debut, and then swerved in radically, and then showed some good energy.
Yeah, the final quarter was almost 25 seconds for Minuetta on May 10th. I didn't make any positive notes on that work, and then he debuts her at the bottom going long. I mean, that might be his Achilles heel, Abel. He doesn't win with many firsters.
True, and he's 0 for 5 in debuting them in maiden claimers.
Yeah, so we never say a horse can't win.
That's why I used her fourth.
Yeah,
mainly to mention that it's an Abel firster going a mile.
Yep,
that had been training at Horseshoe Indianapolis.
Yeah, interesting.
On to the 6th. Scratch the 4, Double Barrel Vinny. Scratch the 8, Princess Celine. $5,000 condition claiming fillies sprinting.
Yeah. Kind of a difficult race. Mola Mia, should be a square price, I would think. Hasn't won a race since 2024. That's not the reason I picked her, though. She finished second twice at Houston, February 28th, April 4th, at a higher class level than this. Came up here April 26th. Showed good speed. The pace figure for that race, was pretty good. Whimsical Air, Nong Sing each came back to win, so that's certainly encouraging. I felt like that off the class drop, she may be able to get to the front this time by herself, but her second place finishes, she was slightly off the pace. I don't think she needs that. I'd love to see her win a little more often, but she's in really good form, and Brent Davidson's quietly having a really good meeting, So I'm going to go with Mola Mia, Stuart Elliott, veteran rider aboard. I just thought this race was so competitive.
Yes.
I thought I'd go that direction.
3-1 morning line favorite. That tells you with Rick's line, it's a competitive race. Davidson's also pretty good on the drop. He dropped a horse yesterday that had been kind of running in one place at a much higher level. Dropped that horse, and it was one of the better paying win prices of the day. Another horse that comes out of the Mola Mia race is the Girl in Red, Arkansas bred. I have her picked second. She's dropping for Calhoun back to this $7,500, or basically back to a more bottom level, where she ran an Evangeline 2 back and ran a little bit better. My top pick is going to be Asmussen here with Color Me Cairo. This is a mare that needs the drop. I mean, you look at her, she doesn't necessarily love to win either. But she did win on the turf at Houston back in January. Since then, they've had her pitched into pretty tough competition, even though she's been taking some money, hasn't been a rank outsider. But now she's getting to a level where maybe on her best day she can be the best. But that's kind of how this is. One of these is going to kind of feel good and be on their best day, and that'll be your winner.
Yeah, that's my thought.
On to the 7th. By the way, that 6th race, before we get off that, begins the pick 5, a one-day carryover of $756 in the pick 5. Now, on to the 7th. Scratch, number 6, Heats Hero. First level Texas bred allowance, mile on the turf.
Yeah, this was not a tough one to pick, but on favoritism. Binary code at the same level, finished second twice, and was even money in 6-5. So you know this horse just logically is going to take a lot of money. And then you got one more time who ran a really good speed figure, buyer figure at Houston, sprinting, won back-to-back turf sprints. This is a Texas-bred allowance, so those were open condition claimers, wins back-to-back. You asked the question about a route of ground since obviously one more times in excellent sprint form. And if you go back to last March, in that maiden special weight race at Houston going 2 turns on the grass, you'll see the winner was Colonel York. Colonel York, is a multiple stakes winner. As a matter of fact, he's won his last 2 stakes at Houston this spring itself, or this winter. So he was in very tough when he tried 2 turns. And just based on the splits without knowing the day, 22 and 4, that's pretty fast. So he may have just went out too quick, but he's in excellent sprint form for Gustafson and Vasquez, and, he could go favored too. I'm just not sure where the public's going to go with binary code off 2 narrow losses as heavy favorite.
And the binary code, I mean, he gives it his all. I mean, he's one of these horses you mentioned. He's a show parlay horse. I mean, he's almost always top, second or third in a race. But I'm just starting to wonder if he's kind of losing the will a little bit to win. I mean, he gets so close. Somebody beats him almost every time. Now, Running Point last time on opening day, Running Point opened up a 10-length lead. That's why his PP line looks a little weird, because he was chasing him, and then all of a sudden Running Point, who won the race, goes off completely in his own area code and then started to come back to him. So, I don't know. I'm going to pass on some of these horses that always run second until they beat me. I'm on one more time, too. One horse I wanted to mention because I think he's a sleeper is Street Jet, the 4. This horse could not get out of his own way last year as a 2-year-old. But then his first start as a 3-year-old against T-bred maiden specials on the turf, he breaks his maiden, he beats a next out winner, and then beats Transom Bay, who was a nice winner here last week. Gellner has been off to a slow start, but he's going to heat up. He gets Luzzy. He really improved. I mean, the Buyer Fig doesn't fit with these. I just think Street Jet, maybe he's found his surface. Maybe he's matured. At 20-1 on the line, I think he's worth a look as a down-the-line long shot play.
Yeah, and Grind Jim's finished narrowly behind binary code twice.
Yeah.
He may have benefited from that rapid pace last time, but nevertheless, he's been very consistent as a deep closer.
And
Grind Jim.
Closer/plotter. I mean, he just one of these. They could probably run him a mile and a half, and he just plod along. I picked him last time, and he went favored, and he was well back in the top 2. But he's one of these guys. He's going to keep coming at you. He couldn't come at Jess Burney and with a Wynn's Image last time, but that was on the dirt. 8th race. 3 and up. 12-5 maiden claimers. A mile on the main track, no scratches.
Helen told me Pashandora was out.
I'm sorry. I got to open up the page to the all of the pages. The 10 Passion Dioro is out. I didn't have my third page of PP.
Oh, that's all right. That horse was, I only mentioned it because that horse was going to take a lot of money.
Sure.
But the 1 cutting class, I think he'll go to the front and try to steal this race. We're at the bottom, maiden classification here. Had been in Hot Springs, finishes second, against Archie Breds. That's a really nice race. Loses his rider, unfortunately, in a maiden 25 right out of the gate when he was 7-2. And then he went off at 7-2 once again in his last start at Oaklawn. Sloppy track, duels for the lead. Weekends just, inside the final 16th, he'd had it. But today we're getting a fast track. He's in a bottom level maiden claiming classification. George Bryant, he's winning races with limited starters. I certainly
won one yesterday.
Yeah, he won another one yesterday.
Yeah.
So with that inside post position, I'm assuming they'll send along and hope to be able to get to the front. And so Cutting Class, the one to catch, the one to beat in my mind.
Me too. I scratch into him, but I totally agree. I had Passion d'Oro, the Southern Cal import. He's out, though, so, yeah, there's a lot to like about Cutting Class. I kind of like the fact that he's an Arkansas-bred who elected to go in against Open Company. Now, you do get a bonus at Hot Springs, at least you did when I was there.
Yeah.
If you're an Arkansas-bred that wins an Open Company, you get a bonus. And the last two times against maiden claimers, he was in against opens. I kind of like that. So, yeah, he has obvious advantages. Oban gets back to dirt. That should help him a little bit. I don't know if it will or not. He actually ran a nice turf race for him last time. A whole lot of gray area. Mindy Willis, Stuart Elliott, 20-1 on the line. Obviously, that's going to be depressed now with all the points taken out with Passion d'Oro scratch. But a whole lot of gray area. Has been bet a little bit in his 2 stars. Has done zip. But Elliott gets the call on this Louisiana bred, puts blinkers on. Mindy's had a really good meet. So in a race where behind Cutting Class,
yeah, Coach
it's questionable.
Coach Ann's proven at 2 turns. He only got beat a neck at Remington on turf going long. Then he gets narrowly beaten at Houston in a sprint 2 starts back. However, those 4 races at Lone Star, he has not raced well over this surface. So on paper, I could make a case for him. But, boy, I hate to see a horse that can't get close in 4 tries at Lone Star on our main track.
And that's odd because this main track usually horses usually take to it. You don't see that many that don't like it, but he doesn't appear to like it.
Right.
9th race. Lots of speed in this race. 1 mile, non-winners of 3 allowance feature, and there are 7 in this one.
Yeah, let me start with my third pick. Remember Big Jim, narrowly beaten in the Zia Park Derby. That's a $300,000 race. The runner-up in this horse finished a close third. The runner-up, Zero Sugar, we talked about him last week.
Yeah.
Horses that had finished behind Zero Sugar. He's a consistent low to mid-90s horse. And I did notice in the chart, Mr. Omaha finished 4th in that Zia Park Derby. So that was an unusually strong field. So anyway, remember Big Jim off that race is a contender. The subsequent starts haven't been very good. He's heavily favored at Houston because of the Zia Park Derby. He doesn't run very well. Capalucci, exceptional horseman, tries turf twice. Very flat efforts, 1 pace. We'll just call him 1 pace. Now back to dirt. I'm just not sure if that 91 just wasn't one of those freak races.
Yeah.
Therefore, I made him 8-1 because there's 2 horses in here that are in super good form. The 2, Skateaway, won back-to-back races last year as a 3-year-old for Todd Pletcher. Fast times. Went to Tampa. For some reason, ran a poor race there. But in his most recent race at Gulfstream Park, still for Pletcher, finished 3rd behind Navajo Warrior. Came back to win the Pimlico Special with a triple-digit buyer speed figure. Was privately purchased based on what I could see after that race.
Charles Garvey, who's one of Diodoro's bigger owners, apparently bought this horse from Spendthrift, who owned him as recently as March 21st.
Yeah, so that, they must expect something from him. And then Brilliant Plan, if you go that direction, 2 very much dominating sprint races. I'd assume she'll beat Skateaway to the front since she's been sprinting and getting to the front. And, she's in great form right now. I noticed interesting, Karen Jacks decided, hey, I'm going to go with the guy with a ton of experience in bigger races, and he switched to Stuart Elliott for this. Which they have a lot of success with Stuart Elliott. Karen Jacks does.
They do.
So, I assume, that's a positive.
And she rides Luke, or almost called him Luke Wethy. That's his uncle, Floyd Wethy Jr. a lot.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of success together. And Floyd's here today. And my first thing when I saw this race was, is Floyd not riding here? Because I think I handicapped this card last race to first. But no, they just decided
right
to switch. Yeah, I mean, Wethy's on Justice Department in this race. So it'll be interesting to watch this riders duel here. You got your sprinters stretching out with speed. You got Skateaway, who's usually forwardly placed in these routes, and see how they handle it. See if anybody else can get in there. On to the 10th. 10th and final, high five race, $2,108 carryover in the jackpot super high five. Scratch the 8, love me some candy. That leaves a field of 9 to go 5 furlongs on the turf. These are Texas bred fillies and mares in for a high maiden claiming tag.
Yeah, I went with Eagle Vision. I mean, I didn't think I'd have to make this horse a favorite. It hasn't raced since October, but just on paper, this mare, 6-year-old mare, I mean, when she runs her best turf sprints, I think it's better than these others can produce. You know, at Lone Star Park, she gets beat only a neck and is 4 lengths back to third. That was last May. Then at Remington, off a layoff, runs a really good race, finishing third in an open maiden special weight race. She was entered yesterday.
Yeah.
And a maiden special weight race. I believe Deadly Beauty, I think that was a special weight. Wasn't it Coffee Maker? I'm not 100% sure. I don't think they'd write 2 maiden claimers back-to-back nights. But anyway, Deadly Beauty, though, was awesome last night. I mean, they weren't going to beat her.
Right.
You know, so Alan Dupe did the right thing. He enters in a state-bred maiden claimer. I do like the works, too, and I know she's only has to go 5 furlongs after a layoff, but the workouts, you know, look sharp and steady. Juarez back aboard. He was aboard here last year when only beating a neck. You know, a lot of times you can pick a Diodoro off a layoff and feel good, but Alan Dupe, I think, has her fit, and I think she's best. So,
yeah, I agree. I'm going to try to beat her, mainly because she almost seems like the type of mare that races up or down to the level of competition. You know, when they had her in for 12-5 turf sprinting at LAD last year, she was 6-5 and ran 6. They put her in against open maidens at Remington. She runs much better. It's kind of like you just don't know what you're going to get from her, plus the layoff. Plus, she does tend to back up a little in every race, even the good races. She's kind of losing ground versus the winner. But still, her Buyer Figs, when she's on, seem to dominate these. I'm going to try Chargin' Lucky. Jalen Clary, this Chargin' Lucky filly completely disregarded, in my opinion, the 2 dirt races. Her 2 turf routes were pretty good. I mean, they were okay at least in this group. Now she turns back. Andy Serling won't like me for picking her, turning back into a 5/8 turf sprint. But she's forwardly placed. She was up in those 2 route turf races. Faded. I don't think she really likes the distance. I think she's a sprinter, and I think they found the surface for her. I'm going to give her a shot, maybe a little bit of a price. Gold Mesa comes out of a nice race, had a really bottom level on the dirt last time. G's Twisted Tail, trying turf for the first time. You know, Eagle Vision definitely has the experience on the grass and the numbers, but I'm going to try to get out with Chargin' Lucky, a 3-year-old.
Yeah, my second pick in here, I just want to quickly mention 15-1 Sleepy Rose.
Yeah.
I think you made a notation.
Well, yeah, I had her 5th.
Yeah, she's the quickest on dirt of all these. Hasn't tried turf before, but a decent turf pedigree. Really fast workouts since the last race. Now, I admit in her 2 dirt races, she's shown terrific speed and really backed out of there. But this is 5/8 of a mile, a different surface. Renee Diaz, you know, gets aboard this one.
Yeah.
I think Sleepy Rose is a really interesting price horse.
I agree. All right, that's it. Oops, sorry. As always, I went a little late. Thanks a lot for listening in. We'll do it all again tomorrow for Lone Star Million Day, but we got 10 good ones coming up today. Thanks for looking in, and good luck.
In the event of an emergency, Lone Star Park is dedicated to ensuring the safety of our patrons. This video illustrates the proper evacuation protocol from all public locations in the Lone Star Park Grandstand facility. Depending on the nature of the emergency, directions may be altered. Please remain calm and follow the direction of Lone Star Park employees and security personnel. Patrons should never use elevators during an evacuation. Suite levels 5 and 6 have 3 stairwells that patrons should use to exit the building. 2 stairwells on either far end of the building, and one next to the elevators. Look for the nearest exit sign, follow stairwell signage, and exit the building at track level. Silk's Dining has 5 stairwells that patrons should use to exit the building. 2 stairwells on either far end of the building that are accessible through either the Jockey Club or Paddock Lounge, and 3 centrally located stairwells near the elevators, escalators, and buffet. Look for the nearest exit sign, follow stairwell signage, and exit the building at track level. Level 2 has 5 stairwells that patrons should use to exit the building. 2 on either far end of the building that are accessible through the Alishiba room and in front of the far west side bathrooms, and 3 centrally located stairwells near the elevators, mustards, and feed sack. Look for the nearest exit sign, follow stairwell signage, and exit the building at track level. The track level has 2 main exits on either side of the grandstand that patrons should use to exit the building. Near the west and east escalators, follow signage and exit the building. Remember to always exit towards the paddock and never towards the track. If severe weather occurs and shelter in place is issued, all patrons will take shelter on the basement level. The grandstand has 2 stairwells on either far end of the building that extend to all floors. Calmly head towards whichever end of the building is closest to you. Look for an exit sign and walk down the stairs following all signage and security staff instructions to shelter in the basement level.